Hi, it's Susan here and welcome to In the Craft Room. And welcome to another Dollhouse episode. We are waiting for issue number 9 of the Peter Rabbit Patchwork Quilt Partworks, where we're going to be making the Flopsy Bunnies character square. Last time when we worked on the dollhouse, we cleaned out the lounge room and rearranged the furniture. As you can see here, I've tidied up and given a clean to the bathroom and the kitchen. Just give it a bit of a wipe out. I then added some really minor details. I changed the bath mat around and added a bit of a mat in the bathroom. I also, in the kitchen, popped the tablecloth on and adjusted the chairs and just put a bit of a glass of milk and a jug onto the counter. So there wasn't much to do in these areas here which would warrant an episode. I'm also going to be closing up the stairway access from the kitchen to the room above. But what am I going to do with the room above? It's an empty space. I don't have any furniture for it. I was thinking of a study or maybe a reading room, but what could be better? Every house needs a craft room. So what sort of things would you have in a craft room, in a dollhouse? Well, pretty much the same stuff that's in our craft rooms. I've got my mini easel, which I've had for quite a while, and the mini piece of art which we could include. I've also got this sideboard. I cut out a vinyl placemat and glued it on the top as an ironing table. You definitely need an iron in a craft room. I've also got these bolts of fabric. These bolts of fabric are pretty easy to make and they look quite effective when they're in the room. They're just jumbo drinking straws which I've cut down to size, and I've cut out the appropriate length of fabric and rolled them on, but I'll show you how I did that later. These here are actual paint brushes which I've cut to size, and the other end of the paintbrush I cut off and made into pencils where I've sharpened the end and coloured the tip with a texture. And this here was a spare sideboard which I had. I just got some pieces of fabric and folded them up. They're my craft room stash of fabrics. And of course we need a Peter Rabbit little printable mini box. Inside it I've got bits of cottons and a tape measure which I've popped together. But one thing that I'd really like in the craft room is a notice board or a pin board. I was thinking about how to make it and I think I've come up with a good idea. Let's get to work and start making a couple of pin boards for our 1 to 12 dollhouse craft room. So what am I going to use to make a 1 to 12 scale dollhouse pin board for the craft room? Well, I found these mini canvases which I'm going to use as the pin board base. I've also got a sheet of cork which I'm going to cut to size as a fascia for the mini canvases. And online I searched for some sewing patterns. These are actual Simplicity sewing patterns which I've then transported or dragged over into a Word document and shrunk down. I'm going to cut these out and have them on the pin board as patterns ready to go in our craft room. I also found some sewing pattern packets. I've got the Birder and the McCalls, which I also brought into a Word document and shrunk down and printed off. This little packet here is a packet which came in the mail where the iron was delivered. I've just popped my little sewing patterns in there, and I'm going to then be popping that on the pin board too. So the first step is quite a fiddly step, and it takes a while. It's cutting out all the patterns. So here we have the little minis, which we're going to be pinning onto our craft room pin board. But first we're going to be making the actual pin boards. I'm going to make 2 pin boards. I've got 2 of these canvases spare. I'm going to start by cutting out the sheet of cork. I'm not going to use scissors, I'm going to use the slicer. So we've got our 2 cork fascias for our pin boards. I'm going to glue them on now, just using a super glue. So we've got our 2 cork looking pin boards, and it's time to start pinning things onto our pin board. These pin boards are going to be attached and glued securely to the wall of the craft room, so you won't see the pins at the back. So on one pin board, I'm going to put our packet of sewing patterns on with the pin. You can see that's pinned on there, and in the back we've got an exposed end of a pin, but that won't matter. On the second pin board, I'm going to pin on the cutout pattern pieces and a little bit of glue just to hold it down into place. So here we have our 2 mini 1 to 12 scale pin boards. I look forward to placing these in the new craft room. And now for the bolts of fabric. I'm going to show you how I made these bolts of fabric. They're pretty easy to make and they look really effective. I've got a packet of jumbo drinking straws. You can use regular cardboard paper straws, but I've just got these jumbo sized ones. Usually a bolt of fabric is about 1 meter or so, so I've done the scale conversions and I've worked out that I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stripes to make it the right length. And I'll just check that. Yes. So this is our cardboard tube of our bolt of fabric. I'm going to use this yellow fabric here, and I'm just going to cut it on the inside of the end of the bolt. I've got a really thin double-sided tape. I'm going to cut a small length and stick it on to the cardboard straw. This is going to secure the fabric in place when I roll it up. And to secure it at the end, I'm going to cut another small piece of double-sided tape. So here we have our bolts of fabric for in our craft room. I'm now going to explore ways in which we could make some skeins of wool or balls of wool. And now for our balls of wool for our craft room. I've got this really large ply of wool, And I'm going to be tying the wool into 2 knots and then cutting the ends off. I'm going to use the offcut of the pattern paper that we cut the patterns out from to make little wraps around the wool. So here are our little skeins and little balls of wool. I think if I got myself a little basket and glued them inside, it could look really effective. So here we have all of our little mini room contents for our craft room ready to go. We've got our fabric flats, or folds of fabric. We've got our cottons, we've got our bolts of fabric. We've also got our little balls of yarn, our paintbrushes, our pencils. I've got this mat here which I cut out of a plastic placemat. We've also got that on our ironing table. We've got more bolts of fabric. We've got our easel and of course our 2 pin boards, which I think look really effective. So next time we work on the dollhouse, I'm going to be putting in a new floor which will cover up the stairway access hole. I'm also going to be repainting and adding all of these craft room details. Thank you for joining me in this craft room today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.